And now, the 5-minute proof that will change U.S. political history dramatically. I will present now a simplified but valid proof showing that the CIA framed Oswald in Mexico City and Earl Warren covered up the CIA's guilt. See Chapter 3 for detailed proof. So here's the proof.
1. The ambassador to Mexico in 1963, Thomas Mann, whom Johnson himself promoted to Undersecretary of State in 1965, told the HSCA in 1978 that A. Sylvia Duran was CIA agent. B. The U.S. government ordered the investigation in Mexico to be stopped in order to cover up a covert CIA operation. C. In order to testify under oath before the HSCA, Mann requested immunity from the U.S. president. Clarification. In November-December 1963, Mann believed that Duran was an agent of the Cuban intelligence agency DGI. The interview in HSCA in which he describes Duran as a CIA agent is from 1978. 2. On November 23rd, Helms's deputy Tom Karamesines tried in a panic to prevent Duran's arrest and interrogation by the Mexican police, putting forward an incomprehensible excuse. 3. On November 23rd, the President of Mexico summoned the CIA chief of Mexico Station to his office and informed him that Oswald had entered the Cuban consulate on Saturday, September 28th, during non-public hours and, in the presence of Sylvia Duran, had contacted the Soviet embassy, Mexi 7028. In a blatant omission, however, during Duran's first interrogation, later on the same day by Mexican Letempo IV, deputy head of the Mexican Secret Police DFS, no questions whatsoever were asked about the incident of September 28th. In other words, at noon, the President of Mexico called Chief of Station Win Scott to tell him about the very important incident of Oswald entering the Cuban consulate during non-public hours in the presence of Duran, and, in the afternoon, the Mexican Letempo IV asked absolutely no questions about the incident to Duran, who was the one and only eyewitness to the incident. With 100% certainty, Win Scott asked the President of Mexico that Letempo IV not to question Duran about the incident. There was a deal between Win Scott and the President. 4. On November 26th, key witness Nicaraguan Alvarado testified that on September 18th, inside the Cuban consulate in Mexico City, a group of people bribed Oswald with $6,500 to assassinate the president, September 18th incident. Alvarado's first statement to the CIA Mexi 7069. Duran was among this group of people. It has been proven that Oswald was in New Orleans on September 18th. Therefore, the incident framed Oswald. Although FBI agent Keenan was sent to Mexico City to interrogate Alvarado, he never saw him. The CIA prevented Keenan from seeing Alvarado and eventually handed Alvarado over to the Mexican Letempo IV, intending to torture him into recanting.
He was saying something that the FBI did not want to hear.
Did you interview him?
No,
because he said, I saw Oswald receiving money in the Cuban...
No, I didn't interview him.
Didn't you want to?
No. We didn't follow that.
Didn't you want to interview him?
No. Never saw him. I asked to. But I was told, forget about it.
But why? He's an important witness, maybe.
Yeah, but the investigation was all over, Willie. It was all decided. At 4 o'clock, the Attorney General, Robert Kennedy, was told, we have found who the subject is. His name is Lee Harvey Oswald. You understand? Hoover had already said it's all over. He was so powerful that his word was law. There was no more investigation. They wanted to close this out. Willie,
here is what Mann told the HSCA.
Mann believed that Mexican police interrogation procedures were such that Ugarte, Alvarado, would adjust his statement to conform to the desired position on the issue.
5. Elena Guerrero, Mexico's most important female writer, stated that Duran had invited Oswald to a party, where Guerrero and 3 of her relatives saw him several days before September 27, 1963, the day Oswald arrived in Mexico City. In other words, Guerrero, without realizing it, testified against Duran for framing Oswald. CIA agents Lichent 1 and Le Cookie 2 coerced Guerrero through kidnapping, breaking her cat's legs, and getting her sister drunk.
Nos fuimos de la fiesta con Horacio, el hermano de Lidia y su mujer Silvia, que trabajaba en el consulado de Cuba. Y Oswald y sus
I went to the party with Horacio and his wife Sylvia, who worked at the Cuban embassy.
Yo me acerqué a ellos y los invité a bailar.
Oswald sat with two friends at the fireside. My Aunt Dia said, "Go ask those funny gringos to dance."
Yo fui y los saqué a bailar.
I didn't like Oswald's face. He was chilly.
Did he dance with you?
No.
No quiso.
He just said no. No, very rude.
No. Muy grosero.
Who did Oswald come to the party with?
Sylvia. Yes.
Pero no hablo con nadie.
He didn't speak to anyone.
How do you know that Sylvia invited him?
Yo le pregunté a Horacio.
I asked Horacio and Sylvia, and she said I did.
Yo los traje. Comentamos.
Horacio added, "Don't even talk about him. He's dangerous."
6. Litempo 8, who was Luis Echeverria Alvarez, the acting secretary of Gobernacion in 1963, prevented any witness, including Sylvia Duran, from coming into contact with attorneys from the Warren Commission who had traveled to Mexico. 7. When Warren Commission attorney Slauson asked to interrogate Duran, as Philip Shannon reveals in his critical book, A Cruel and Shocking Act, The Secret History of the Kennedy Assassination, Chief Justice Warren feigned ignorance, spewing some nonsensical rant about how it wasn't proper to question communists and similar rhetoric, and prohibited him from reaching out to Duran.
Decades later, Slauson said he remained mystified by the Chief Justice's decision on Duran. "It's crazy we didn't talk to her." He came to wonder if the decision was a political calculation.
What characterizes Warren's intervention is that the excuse he used was outrageous, absurd, idiotic, incomprehensible. This shows that he really had nothing to say. It is clear that Warren was ordered by Johnson that the Warren Commission should not touch Duran, and he carried out the orders like an obedient soldier. Warren told Slauson that he would not allow the interrogation because, "We don't talk to communists. You cannot trust a dedicated communist to tell us the truth. So what's the point?" Imagine being a prosecutor and being called in by the Attorney General and ordered not to question a mafioso because, "We don't talk to mafiosi. You cannot trust a dedicated mafioso to tell us the truth, so what's the point?" But what was the purpose of Warren's cynical intervention? As we will see in Chapter 3, Ambassador Mann had asked on November 26, as recorded in Mexi 7072, that Litempo 4 break and crack Duran, regarding Alvarado's statement to the CIA on November 26. However, what happened was exactly the opposite of what Mann requested and what common sense and the law demanded. If we look at the CIA report on Duran's second interrogation, we see that there is absolutely no question about the incident on September 18th. This means that Duran, for reasons that will be explained in Chapter 3, was unwilling to commit perjury about the September 18th incident, as well as the September 28th incident. So, CIA and Litempo 4 could not include anything related to the September 18th incident and the September 28th incident in the CIA report on Duran's second interrogation. But that means that what Duran knew was devastating for the CIA, namely, Duran intended to confirm Alvarado's statement. Therefore, if someone not controlled by the CIA had interrogated Duran, the entire operation to frame Oswald in Mexico City in September would have been exposed. For this reason, the CIA tasked Earl Warren, apparently with LBJ's intervention, to prohibit Slauson from contacting Duran. In other words, the CIA had a fundamental problem, that for the two most critical incidents, those of September 18 and 28, there was only one witness, Sylvia Duran, whose only self-serving strategy available to her was not to commit perjury. The solution was a one-way street for the CIA. 1. Sylvia Duran was not questioned about either of the two incidents. 2. Any American investigator, Keenan, Slauson, Coleman, was prohibited from contacting Duran. The actions of Warren and Litempo 8. 3. Alvarado was handed over to Tempo IV to be coerced into recanting under threat of torture. The cherry-picking that results from this illegal and cynical act by Earl Warren renders the Warren Commission's conclusions fit only for the trash can. The only image that comes to mind is Hans Christian Andersen's tale, The Emperor's New Clothes. The JFK research community is shouting, "The Emperor has no clothes," and instead of being shocked by Warren's intervention, which was humiliating for American justice, the world is admiring the Emperor's magnificent clothes. When we revisit the above proof in detail in Chapter 3, we will see that it is irrefutably conclusive and proves Theorem 3. It is necessary to make an observation here. On November 26th and 27th, the White House was in a state of panic over the Alvarado case, and at the same time Thomas Mann was insisting that an investigator be sent to take an official statement from Alvarado. Hoover was forced to send FBI Special Agent Lawrence Keenan to take Alvarado's statement. As soon as he arrived in Mexico City, the CIA, which knew of his imminent arrival, said, "Oops, what a mistake. We just sent Alvarado to Tempo IV." Why did this happen? Quite simply, it was because Hoover had set limits on how much the FBI could participate in the cover-up. He essentially told Johnson and Helms, "There are no special agent gangsters. Get that out of your heads. Don't expect that kind of cover-up from the FBI." Keenan was an honest FBI investigator, not a gangster. In other words, Hoover set limits on what he was willing to do for Johnson and Helms. Warren, however, set no limits. Compared to Warren, Hoover had a backbone. Warren was spineless. He functioned as a tool of the CIA. I know it's counterintuitive, but the facts say so.
The video was a short excerpt from the introduction of JFK Assassination, 3 Theorems, 3 Mathematical Proofs, the book that will change the history of the United States. For excerpts from the book, information, discussion, and questions about the 3 theorems, go to the X account Metarithmistis. It is very important to read the introduction and table of contents to understand why this book will change the history of the United States.
Lo que tú me